It is my pleasure to have you visit my channel. Give the video a pre-start by hitting the subscribe button. An Instagram story by Rhea Ripley prompted Juso to respond to the singer's comment. As for the former, the Eradicator Hope, reigning champion of many tag teams on his celebration of Sami Zayn's, triumphed recently against J.D. McDonagh. Together with Finn Balor on the Day of Judgment, they dream of competing in the WWE World Tag Team Championship. At the same time, Damon and Ripley had been embroiled in a conflict with their once fellow riders, with Liv Morgan following suffer the betrayal at Instagram story of SummerSlam. Dear Jay was rather taken aback by Ripley's best wishes on your special day. Here's a screenshot of Raj's Instagram story. Declared his desire to take on breakthrough device for the Intercontinental winner of the recent championship. The news that a competition is set to choose his successor, Matt Camp, feels confident in Rhea Ripley's ability to win to represent her squad at the Berlin Bash, Arriving Party, and Berlin High-End Live. Damon, the Priest, and Rhea, the event planner, will face Lucille Van Damme and Dominic Mysterio in commenting on a tag team battle featuring a mix of former WWE wrestler Matt's podcast staff members. Ripley was predicted by Matt Camp would ensure her team's triumph by "I would think you," he murmured, pinning Morgan. Arranged for the Rhea vs. Live rematch, possibly Hell in a Cell for Bad Blood, a major gimmick match of some kind. I am not. Be aware of the Priest vs. Dom dilemma or Priest vs. Finn in the months to come, but I have to believe that Rhea receives them. Get the pin put up in real time. Returning to SummerSlam, who was Rhea Ripley? Betrayed by the man who assisted him, Dominic Mysterio. Keep the women's world title, Liv Morgan. Top spot in the most recent iteration of Raw on Monday night, Rory and Danny. The Judgment removed the Priests. The Priest at SummerSlam was duped by his former member of Finn Balor's tag team, destroyed his World Heavyweight title, crowning triumph against Gunther J. USO on. In a shadowy locker room, alone myself. Stress caused by recent occurrences on his. The place was brimming with people who were faint murmurs of people walking and speaking, resonating off the horizon. But Jay paid them no mind. Distraction from the commotion. Outside, he was engrossed in. His life had descended into complete anarchy ever since he chose to quit his job at. When he sat on the bench, his phone beeped. Right next to him, jolting him out of his. Considering this, he sighed and leaned over to grasped it. His pupils dilate just a little when he saw Rhea's name flash across the screen. Ripley. They hadn't had many conversations, and their contacts had always been fleeting, mostly as an aside, beyond the arena, but her charisma captivated, focused on no one could compare to Rio. Enters the ring with surprising intensity. Fiercely autonomous, he paused briefly before opening, the word inquisitiveness taking over as he gazed at the words. Absolutely overwhelmed with significance. You were no longer employed. It's about time you took charge of your family tree. Thing. Esteemed Jay's pursed lip expression. He read the message with a smile on his face. Standard for Rhea, simple no. Stupidity tinged with that. The defiant nature for which she was renowned almost sounded like she was saying those phrases sprinkled with that comforting hint of opposing viewpoints. But what captivated him the most came from was the last word in regard. Rhea, who wasn't supposed to be one to lavish praise on others or provide compliment lightly if she said that she valued. I gave it to you, Jay, because you deserved it. Slumped against the wall, consumed by thoughts, racing after breaking over in WWE, Rhea forged her own route through the women's alienation by her vicious violence to a standstill. Resolve, she had positioned herself. A group that believes in the day of judgment, relish in disorder, ruin, yet in spite of their gloomy underlying themes, Rhea seemed to lack. Statement hit home for Jay. She was adamantly faithful to those in her inner circle, struggled for the cause she believed in despite Standing alone was a challenge in many ways. She brought up memories of his own time, years of undying devotion to the Roman Empire. As far as the bloodline is concerned, he is authority to preserve the heritage of the family, but ultimately it had all grown to be overwhelming. Under duress, by manipulation, struggling with ongoing self-doubt, he had reached a breaking point as a result of it. It was a gentle reminder from Rhea that he was confronted by a number of people who were those who have a grasp on the concept of liberate yourself from the shackles that repress. They should go their own way, even if it wasn't necessitated going against their whole. Was aware that he deliberated about his answer. Moment, what on earth could he possibly say without coming out as corny or not really engaged? Rio has a genuine appreciation for genuineness, and he yearned to cross paths with her. Reaching that level at last, after what seemed like a long time, he finally responded. Required to be self-sufficient in order to value the show respect to Rosa. It's rare to find someone like you. Recognizes it. He conveyed the message and instantly had a feeling of relaxation from it. Little, but it was honest. And if, among his many lessons, one stood out to him in integrity was paramount in this industry. Frequently, much to his astonishment, the most elusive Rhea was quick to answer, so we could all get to work on what it works for us. Stay strong, the J. The path ahead may be challenging, but it will be worthwhile in the end. Nodding in accord, Jay couldn't help but join in. Looking forward, he read her words, knew better than anybody how difficult it was. It was Rio who was in the right. I have no regrets. After a considerable interval, he finally had a sense of mastery over his fate. As the hours passed, Jay discovered, gradually increasing the amount of time spent. Regarding Rhea's message, it wasn't only the phrases that remained in his mind, was the fundamental bond he experienced. Together, they were formidable fighters, enduring struggles that no one else could start to comprehend. That the two of them were aware of what it meant to be ensnared by preconceived notions, as if the whole universe were pressing down on them, on top of it all, while continuing to move forward, irregardless of the expense. Following week on match of the century in the wings, Jay was, throughout his pre-match warm-up, he was jogging in his customary pre-match warm-up when a voice he recognized was heard from behind him. Dear Jay. In his peripheral vision, he saw Rhea Ripley. Her presence, as she stood there, continually authoritative. She sported her distinctive leather garment, and her ebony, intense stare locked upon him clearly shown her lack of interest in tiny discussion. Rhea J nodded in greeting. The woman crossed her arms as a sign of recognition, a little grin extending over her face as is she prepared for tonight's kiss? Dear Jay put on an air of nonchalance and shrugged. At all times, Rhea would pause to observe him. First, take a look at me. I didn't show up. I am not here to offer you advice or anything. Nonetheless, when I said respect Jay, I meant it. You're brave for leaving the family tree. Her eyes met Jay's, and he felt them. She had to decide what to say because of it seemed as if she was the one who was caught on to his meaning perfectly. You're more powerful than you expect. Skip over. Recall that Jay had a rush of resolve radiated from him to her. There was an air of mystery about Rhea's persona that provided stability, liberating, and he was filled with gratitude because of the serendipitous bond they shared, established as a result of Rhea. Sincerely, he said, your gift to him is much appreciated. I nod slightly before I turned to go, but just as she was about to go, she stopped and turned around to face him, and Jay refused to. Has anybody informed you of your assigned role? The way she walked was defined by you. Gone, leaving Jay to stand there alone, the thoughts resonating in his head. He had steadily was aware that the road ahead would be difficult, yet he experienced a profound sense of prepared to deal with any challenge that may arise as, during the evening, he emerged onto the ramp, the roar of the audience echoing in his skull. Jay. One thing was clear to USO.